The Krillian training ground stretched across the frozen plains of Arcturus 7, a desolate world chosen specifically for its hostility. Here, the galaxy's most feared predators learned to become something more: weapons. Commander Vexthor stood at the observation platform, his four eyes gleaming with satisfaction as he watched the latest batch of cubs prepare for their final test. "Bring in the human," he commanded, his translator converting his clicks and hisses into standard galactic. Max felt the cold bite through his environmental suit as the guards shoved him into the arena. 3 weeks ago, he'd been a cargo pilot on a peaceful route through the Outer Rim. Now he was here, chosen randomly as prey for creatures that haunted the nightmares of civilized species across 12 systems. The Krillians didn't hate humans particularly. They simply saw all non-Krillians as inferior, suitable only for training exercises. Luna had been at the facility longer. 6 months of captivity had taught her more about the Krillians than any xenobiologist had ever learned. She worked in the nursery, a bizarre twist of fate that put the human prisoner in charge of feeding and caring for the cubs before they entered combat training. The Krillians found it amusing, the prey species tending to their future hunters. She'd named them, though she kept the names to herself. There was Scar, with the distinctive marking across his snout, Ghost, the albino female who moved like smoke, and Thunder, the largest of the litter, whose roar could shake the walls even at 6 months old. Luna. "They've brought another human," whispered Kira, a Venlari servant who'd shown her kindness in small, dangerous ways. For the cub's final test, Luna's blood froze. She ran to the observation window, pressing her hands against the reinforced glass. Below in the killing field, she saw him, a man in an orange flight suit looking terribly small and vulnerable beneath the artificial suns. "No," she whispered. Then louder, pounding on the glass, "No!" Commander Vexthor noticed her distress and chittered with amusement. "The prey tender cares for her own kind. How sentimental. Watch, human. Watch as your species' weakness is demonstrated." The gates opened. 6 cubs bounded into the arena: Scar, Ghost, Thunder, and 3 others from different litters. Each weighed over 200 pounds, their developing claws already sharp enough to shred steel. They'd been starved for 2 days, trained to associate human scent with feeding time, conditioned to attack on command. Max backed away slowly, his mind racing through impossible survival scenarios. He had no weapons, no shelter, nowhere to run. The cubs spread out with tactical precision that spoke of careful training, cutting off escape routes. "Attack," Vexthor commanded through the speakers. The cubs charged. Max closed his eyes, refusing to give them the satisfaction of seeing his fear, but the impact never came. He opened his eyes to find himself surrounded, not by attacking predators, but by a living shield. The 6 cubs had formed a defensive circle around him, their backs to him, facing outward toward the confused instructors. Thunder's low growl rumbled like distant thunder, a clear warning. The training ground fell silent. "What is this?" Vexthor's voice cracked with fury. "I gave you a command." "Attack! The cubs didn't move!" Ghost pressed closer to Max, her white fur brushing against his leg. Scar bared his teeth, not at the human but at the observation deck where their tormentors watched. Luna understood immediately. For 6 months she'd shown them something the Krillians never had: gentleness. She'd sung to them when they were frightened, cleaned their wounds when training left them bleeding, spoke softly when the instructors only screamed commands. She'd treated them not as weapons but as children, and they remembered. "Open the secondary gates," Vexthor snarled. "Release the adults. These defective cubs will be eliminated along with the humans." Luna didn't think. She acted on pure instinct, slamming her fist against the emergency release panel that she'd watched the guards use 100 times. Alarms shrieked as the nursery doors opened. She ran into the arena as the adult Krillians, full-grown, battle-scarred, and viciously loyal to their commanders, poured in from the opposite side. Max saw her coming and understood. They stood back to back as the cubs tightened their protective circle. The adults hesitated. The cubs' stance confused them, triggering instincts older than the Krillian Empire's war machine. Pack bonds, the protection of young, the recognition of non-threat. Luna began to sing, the same lullaby she'd sung to the cubs every night, a human melody from Earth that spoke of safety and home. Thunder joined first, his roar softening to a harmonic rumble. Then Ghost, her higher-pitched call weaving through the song. One by one, the cubs added their voices, and incredibly, some of the adults answered. Vexthor watched his perfect weapons choosing compassion over conditioning, and he understood that he'd made a terrible miscalculation. Humans weren't weak because they showed mercy. They were dangerous because mercy could be taught, and once learned, it spread like wildfire. The standoff lasted 3 hours before the Galactic Council's intervention team arrived, responding to distress signals Kira had secretly transmitted. Max and Luna were extracted, along with the cubs who refused to leave their sides. The Krillian training facility was shut down. The cubs were relocated to a sanctuary world, with Luna appointed as their primary caregiver. Max stayed too, unable to return to his old life after seeing what he'd seen, learning what he'd learned, on quiet nights. When the cubs slept peacefully under alien stars, Luna and Max would sit together and marvel at the truth the galaxy was slowly learning. That humanity's greatest strength wasn't in violence or technology, but in the stubborn, reckless, beautiful belief that even the fiercest hearts could choose kindness. And across 12 systems, the story spread. The Krillian cubs who'd been commanded to kill, but had surrounded the humans to shield them instead.